Good afternoon. What a great program. So many good presenters, and I appreciate the program organizers have done a great job. I'm Bruce McDonald with DEXUS Property Group. We're from Sydney, Australia, and we're really pleased to have and proud to have received thus far an award for the best tall building in Asia and Australasia. The theme of One Bligh Street, the name of our project, is engaging the environment, and it really suits our building well and the culture of Australia. Some notable firsts we have in Australia with this building is that we are the first double-skin high-rise facade, which you'll hear later has multiple benefits. We also are the first naturally ventilated high-rise atrium building, full atrium throughout. And then we're really proud to say we're the first 6-star Green Star rated building in our country. Quickly, the agenda for today, I'm going to go over as owner of the project representing DEXUS, talk a little bit about the background, our company, and our vision, and how we felt we had an opportunity to redefine the skyline of Sydney and also set some real standards in green initiatives. We'll talk about the competition, the design competition, and our decision making. And then most importantly, I introduce the pros, Christoph Ingenhoven, who we're very proud to say executed our dream. And he'll tell you about the details of the project. A little bit about the owners. One Bligh is owned by DEXUS and two other entities, which is DEXUS Property Wholesale Fund and also CBUS, which is our largest construction superannuation fund in Australia. A little bit about DEXUS is that we're the largest listed owner of office buildings in Australia. So this really gave us, again, an opportunity to set the pace. We have for years been very engaged in corporate responsibility and sustainability, and this fit right into the wheelhouse of our company. The original site was positioned kind of snuggled in the CBD district, and it definitely was a great location, and we saw it initially as an opportunity to make it better. So we aggregated 4 other sites around it over a period of time, and then we knew at that point the execution design criteria would be critical because we had amassed just a well-positioned property near the seafront. Our journey has been 12 years. It took us 3 years to acquire and aggregate the property. Then we went through a strict architectural discipline design criteria brief, and then waded our way through presentations through the Sydney Council with our local architect, Ray Brown of Architectus, and then as well as Christoph Ingenhoven, made presentations that we successfully moved through without any objections, as we felt we just had got something that perfectly suited the environment. Then we started construction, and then we hit the global financial crisis, which you all know was quite difficult for everyone. We had the fortune of a local significant law firm, Clayton, signed just after the crisis began a lease for 55% of the floor space of the building, which really endorsed what we were doing. And then it boosted us right through to completion of construction last year. This was the vision on your right in 2008 to the ultimate reality on your left. We knew that a 6-star Green Star building would be well received, and that was part of the key design criteria. But in the competition, we ended up with 5 finalists. And one of the things we really pushed for was a local architect to team with an international peer. And Ray Brown had the insight of Architectus to reach out to Christoph. And what a great combination that was. When we opened the design brief competition box that they had, it was an immediate wow moment, and we knew we had the winner. The boldness of architecture that Christoph brought to this and international experience in high-rise sustainability with Ray Brown's knowledge of all the local needs of Australia, about the environment, about the CBD site was just imperative, and we really felt fortunate to put this team together. This shows you the development from looking down. We call it our 5th facade. It's in a twisted egg shape. kind of an elliptical thing. And at first it seemed simple, but we knew it was unique. Well, what turned out to be simple was quite complex. And when you have something that complex, it just draws out the great talent of all the team players. And that we're so proud to have seen a complex project be executed. This is to its completion. And it has some interesting things going on in the rooftop that really are part of the dynamic of the building. Namely, you see the atrium, heart-shaped atrium in the blue. And that's naturally ventilated, which is really a key feature of the building. You see the solar panels, and what's that? That's creating steam energy that tops off the energy load of the building. And then we have our park with banksia trees planted, which are now known as the highest trees planted in all of Sydney. So something I need to touch on, the location isn't waterfront. Here's the perspective. From the Sydney Harbor, you can see its facade as it currently is positioned. We knew we had a great window to our harbor. When you look from the other direction, looking out, we had the opportunity to see the famed Sydney Harbor Bridge, if we maximize the views, the botanical gardens, and also the famed Opera House. So now looking backwards, this building was positioned in an A location. And when you have something like that, you know that you have to maximize this fantastic opportunity to bring it to the forefront. And we really did. This is my favorite shot. Spatially, when you walk in the building, you see here the atrium from the ground floor looking up. And it's truly, from a layman's perspective, a cathedral sensation. I love the fact when you go from the outside of the building into the inside, you're getting an architectural bonus. It's a completely different feel. And the lightness coming through the daylighting that's coming through the outside of the building, through the inside atrium clear glass, is pouring into this atrium, plus the downlight and the uplight from the lobby. You're getting all movements and shapes throughout. And it's so unique and special that we find that lots of tourists enter the building and they're looking up and they're craning their neck and they can't stop looking. It's just spectacular. In order to get and accomplish what we set forth to do, we had to set the bar high. So our design brief covered just a few critical things I'd like to mention. We wanted to make sure it was an optimum performing building. You can design things that look great, but we wanted optimum performance, the highest green best practice standards. We also wanted really large floor plates to attract big corporations with very few column interruptions, maximize the views, get the most daylight in as we could. But the critical thing was to design to the long-term approach of real estate development, just not the next cycle, but all the future cycles. And of course, economic feasibility. So what was the outcome to date? We're really proud and flattered that we've had over 20 architectural and sustainability awards. 94% of the buildings now leased, with the likes of Bloomberg and our Prime Minister of Australia has chosen One Bligh as her home office. So we've had just this great stakeholder endorsement. Look at the light coming through. This is a perception from the lobby, how light is pouring through from the sides, from the top, from the bottom. And what you have is this naturally ventilated big atrium where you have fresh air. You can walk out of your airspace, as Christoph will show, into these pod areas without ever leaving your floor. You're getting an enjoyment of actually going outside, and that you get the exact feel of that. It's not Wrigley Field, but it's our largest green wall in the Southern Hemisphere. And the reason why I'm showing you this is we thought a lot about the streetscape. It's 150 feet long, 30 feet high, and it pours out to the street. So as you're walking by, you're getting the enjoyment of like a vertical park. And it not only has a statement in green, but it's also functioning as hiding our utilities, creating a nice courtyard. And the Blackwater recycling irrigation that we're using here is really efficient because it's not putting demand on our water source, our main water source, yet we have over 11,000 plants to irrigate and 30 different species. It's really a neat area at the streetscape level. And finally, my favorite shot. Looking back, you'll see this curved facade nestled in the middle of the Sydney Harbor perspective. And just from an owner's point of view, nothing like this happens, both driving innovation and premium quality building results unless you have the leadership. And we had the leadership of two people in the company, namely the project manager from that 12-year journey, Tony Gulliver, who stuck with the design brief to the strictest discipline, and then our former CEO, Victor Hugentink, who really had a passion for this project. So the owner was completely engaged with our great consultants, and that created a mission, and the objective was achieved. And now I'd like to introduce Christoph, and he made our dream a true reality. Thank you very much.
Hello to everybody. Good afternoon, and thanks to Bruce. I would like to introduce the building a little bit more in detail to you, and give you an impression about the reasons why the design looks like it looks like. It is in the middle of the central business district of Sydney, and the position of it is quite special. It has an open view to the harbour, and it is not the tallest building there. It might be the most elegant building, or the small brother between bigger brothers. It's a very special position. And as you see here, the volumes there, not just the high-rises, but as well the ships are huge. So the building has to compete with that. And the result of that elliptical shape with the atrium in the middle and the overall facade, is quite the result of a long journey in a way, and a very intensive decision-making process. The rectangular grid of Sydney has a disturbance on one place where they decided some 100 years ago to put the city grid towards the governor's house then. And although later they decided not to go further with that, the position of the building on the edge of that shift from rectangular to diagonal is very special, and it creates as well the view through the high-rise, the very tall high-rises towards the Sydney Harbour Bridge and the harbour. There was a long process of trying and trial and error in the beginning of the competition, and I won't go through all these alternatives that guides us to the result. But I would like to take you on a journey through some of the issues. If you look to that rectangular grid in the bottom of that picture and to the shifted grid on the top, you see if you want to provide the maximum view to the harbour, you have to think about the form of the building, because otherwise you're presenting the shoulder to the harbour. So what we did is we turned that elliptical shape into a position where the main space in the building is orientated toward the harbour. And then the harbour view is not the only view there. There's a view as well towards the National Library and Bondi, and then as well towards Bligh Street, and then another one down to McDonald Street, or Donald Street. And the question was, how can we provide a view through the streets and at the same time position the cores of the building in a way that they don't block the view anyhow. So what we did is we blocked the view to the most tall buildings around by the cores, and make sure that in between these tall buildings the views are free. So that is the first step into the design. And then the question was how we can provide a kind of addition to the social life of Sydney and to the social life of the central financial district. And there's far places in winter especially, but also in summer, mainly an overshadowed place because it is orientated to the south, so that it's overshadowed by the sun and the shadows of the neighbors. And what we try to do is twist the building so that Farrer Place get a more rectangular shape, and then on the edge of our building, a sunny place. You will see that. That is the opposite neighbor, and this is a ground floor where you see that we orientated public steps towards Farrer Place. And this is the position of the building. And then we did another thing. We shifted the building into the air. And by doing that, we can provide a public space underneath the building, and at the same time, we provide more view to the harbor for the people in the building. And this is the public stairs in front of it. It gets some sun in winter, when it is most welcome, and a warm and sunny place. And the building overshadows the stairs in summer, so if it is very hot, you can sit in the shadow there. A very comfortable place, you will see later. And then we provide an open ground floor, that uplifted ground floor, and that provides as well an open access from Bligh Street and from Farrer Place. This is how it looks today, very accepted by the people in the central business district. And that was one of the initial sketches and what we would call a people place. But there are more people places in ground floor. It's not just a stair, it is as well a child care behind that mesh, behind that screen, quite transparent. And then, as you see here, there's as well a shortcut between Bligh Street and O'Donnell Street. And then there's a public cafe and restaurant in the ground floor. And it provides a very special tool, this openable facade you will see later. There's a coffee point towards Bligh Street, covered by the green wall, which covers as well the neighbors, which are very, very narrow to the side. And this is a view towards the neighbor. And then there's a shortcut from Bligh Street to O'Donnell Street. And the only secured area in ground floor is the lift lobbies and the central course. And there is in the middle of the atrium is a kind of reception. And that is how it looks like, completely open to all sides, completely public for all day. And here it comes. As you see here, we have doors, garage door style glass doors, that open completely the whole ground floor for, let's say, 70 to 80% of the year, because the climate in Sydney allows for that. And the people enjoy sitting outside, even if it's a little colder. And then, as already mentioned, it has a 6-star rating. We received 84 points. We could have had even a little less and still get 6-star, because 75 is a requirement. And I will run you through some of the pictures showing what kind of tools, what kind of design features were important for that. One is a double-skin facade all around the building, which provides better sun shading, a wind-protected sun shading, at the same time glare shading. It protects the building against solar gain or additional solar gain or not wanted solar gain. And then there is the atrium, which is natural ventilated. And then there is on rooftop solar cooling. And then there's a quite sophisticated water treatment system, which I will explain in detail later. And we used a lot of recycled material, up to 90%. And then the result of that is a 40+ reduction of CO2 emission compared with a state-of-the-art conventional building. What it is it's a double-skin facade all around the building. It has, for example, tri-generation plant run by biofuel. This produces the electricity and the heating and cooling by absorption chillers of the whole building. And then there's a cooler, the mentioned cooler, solar cooling additional to that. It's mentioned that blue is the new green, and we save by a special feature 100,000 liter of water. We do that while we could take away from the sewer, we're sewer mining 75,000 liters from the Bondi main sewer. We put it into an Aquacell Blackwater recycle plant. We put these 75,000 liters into our water cooling tower daily. And we have an internal circle of 25,000 liters of retreated water that is used as gray water and then get back into the treatment and in a constant cycle stays in the building. So compared with a normal procedure, that saves 100,000 liters. And it is a very compact building, because if you compare the building shape with a rectangular building, there's significantly a smaller surface than on a rectangular building. It has a 100% flexible perimeter zone without columns, because they have a setback of nearly 6 meters, and then 1,000 square meter of column-free space. It has overall a quite generous open plan office possibility. The efficiency is quite significant. With 93% leasable area on a regular floor, it hits, I think, what a developer normally look like for. And the maximized orientation is not just about the view, it's as well about getting daylight into the building. And this is not just from the outside of the building, this is as well from the atrium. And so because it is lighted from both sides, it's a real bright place. It is covered all around by clear white glass. It was mentioned earlier by Helmut Jahn that we looked for that bronze glass. We looked always for the white glass. So I put in front of the engineers a white glass with water in and say, I want a transparency like that. And I think this is available and achievable if you're looking for a sun shading system, as I will introduce to you now. There's a double skin, as I mentioned before, around the building, and that increases the comfort for the user because the isolation of the building is much better. The tightness of the facade is better. There is a windshield for the sun shading, and that is the reason why it is used whenever it is needed. And it does not block the view like other systems do. I will show that to you. This is the wind and weather and rain protection. That's the outer single glass layer. And then between the two layers, there is the sun shading, and the sun shading gets into position whenever it is needed, even in a storm, even if the wind pressure is very high. So that is the reason why it can act as glare shading as well. And when I first visited Sydney offices in beautiful towers with a beautiful view some 6 to 7 years ago, I was depressed by the interior quality because these people with the best view in the world shut down the whole office because they want to keep out the glare from their computers, and they do it by screens, by vertical screens, dark gray. So this is then a submarine experience. And what we did is we can provide sun shading and glare shading 90% of the working hours by having no blinds at all, or the blinds horizontal, or the blinds in 10% sliding position, which is in a high-rise very comfortable because you normally look downwards. So I think that's a very good news, and that is how the building looks by most of the working hours. And you can reduce the time where the blinds are in position by 60% against the normal building by doing that in the wind protection of a double skin facade. So a normal building would provide that with 1,800 hours, and our buildings does that with 1,000 hours, and then horizontal or 10% sliding. So it's really a very good performance. And then it is a circulation of air in the double skin, and that has to work like outlet and inlet, separated by a blade, and that blade is positioned in a way that the intake of the air is separated from the outlet, so that not the used air of the lower level is then the fresh air of the upper level, and that a build-up, heat-up in the double skin is not the case. So natural ventilation is not just provided by the operable windows, but as well from the atrium. And you can open the windows. 50% of the year natural ventilation is possible, although the humidity and the temperature in Sydney is quite high. And then the cool air in the atrium, which comes from the back of the building, provides a much better comfort than if it would be not circulated. And then we do additional to that used air from the offices into the atrium, so it makes it even more comfortable. Naturally ventilated balconies add 4% to the permittable GFA extra, and that's all the balconies, and that is the first view into that atrium. And it is not just an atrium as a resource of fresh air, it's as well a communication hub. So a community in a high-rise is always a little bit difficult because you don't see each other. In this case, you see a lot of people moving through the atrium and looking from backwards into the facilities of the neighbors. It's a very calm place, very soft. It's very comfortable. The feeling is bright and comfortable. And you see what your neighbors and colleagues do. And you don't feel isolated. It's not an artistic building like many high-rises are with central cores. This is the result, and this is the view from the very top of the building towards the Sydney Harbour Bridge. We get awarded 10% extra GFA for design excellence by the council, the Planning Council of Sydney, which is, I think, a very good reason for investors to look for good architects. And there was a team delivering that. That was DEXUS, and then together with our team, Ray Brown and his team, our partner office in Sydney, and then many people and engineers like Ross Clark and like Arup and like DS Plan and people like that doing that all. And here's what the Prime Minister said before she decided even to go into the building as a tenant.
You are here helping us imagine what this cleaner and more sustainable future can look like. A beautiful building, a building that people would be proud to work in, a building with a magnificent outlook, with all of the features that people would want in modern office accommodation, and here it is being done at 6-star sustainability.
So thank you very much.